Hello guys, welcome back to the channel. I'm here today with my good friend and client, Steph, who is also from England, and she's actually a carnivore bodybuilder. She's looking to do a show this year under my guidance, my support and help. We're going to be talking today a bit about her current health status, training, diet, and how she's going to go about competing this year using a purely carnivore diet. So before we get into all the deep nitty gritty stuff, I'd just like you to outline roughly who you are, what your current health is like, and how you found the carnivore diet.
Yeah. Right. First of all, I'm a 52-year-old, postmenopausal lady. I've been through everything. I was vegetarian for 17 years, which led to me developing multiple autoimmune disorders, celiac, and Hashimoto. I then found keto, and that helped a lot in respect of controlling some of the autoimmune disorders. However, we're still getting reactions, and I couldn't work out what the reaction was coming from, mainly skin reactions. And then it wasn't until I heard from Sean Baker about the N=1 experiment, about carnivore lifestyle, I decided to give it a shot. I even gave up coffee, which for me is like in Italian, giving up coffee is unheard of. But I did give up coffee for those 3 months. It was absolute torture. But the rest, cutting everything out, including just having meat, pure meat, there was no fish or anything at the time, made a huge difference in respect controlling the autoimmune disorders and feeling better in myself. Now, I've got, as I mentioned, I've got multiple autoimmune disorders. So I have actually had one of my thyroid removed in 1997. And I was on levothyroxine I've been on levothyroxine ever since. It went all the way up to 250 micrograms a day, which is a massive dose, because they couldn't get quite the right result. They couldn't work out what was going on. We then decided to have a look at the thyroid to find out why the medication wasn't working, and found out that somehow one of my thyroid had disappeared. I was supposed to have one and a bit thyroid left. All I had was a bit of a thyroid left. So there was a little bit of bit of confusion there. What happened to my missing thyroid? But that's something that we couldn't find out. Well, there's a thought that they might have removed it by mistake, but we don't know that anyway. So the end result was that they got me all the way up to 250 micrograms a day, and then the TSH seemed to stabilize according to what their range is. But we know the TSH range is ridiculous. It's too wide. I was still feeling like crap, and I was being told, "No, that's fine, everything's good now, your T4, TSH are good." And I got to the point where I could barely get out of bed. I had no energy. I couldn't think straight. So I then found out about T3, the other thyroid hormone, through Thyroid UK. Nobody ever mentioned that to me at the doctor. So I did pay for my own blood test, and the blood test included the antibodies. And I found out my T3 was rock bottom, and my antibodies were sky high. So that's when I found out I had Hashimoto. I went to a private endocrinologist who prescribed T3, and as soon as I started taking that alongside the levothyroxine, it was night and day. The difference was ridiculous. I could think straight again. It was massive difference. When I started that, I was on 100, it was 250 micrograms of levothyroxine, and I was on 100 micrograms of T3. And when I went keto, I was able to decrease the levothyroxine to 100 micrograms of that, and 100 micrograms of T3, and going carnivore. Now we got to the point where I'm taking 100 micrograms of levothyroxine 4 days a week, and the other 3 days I'm taking the T3 100 micrograms. So actually to decrease, not taking them together anymore, and that's despite the fact I've only got 3 milligrams of thyroid gland left. So that make a massive difference for me being carnivore. In addition to that, I got celiac disease. Obviously, celiac disease, you can't touch gluten, so all the autoimmune protocol, so you can't have any of the nightshades vegetable, which I wouldn't touch anyway. So that is a no-brainer. And then I also found out, following the problems we had in the last few years, which we're not going to say what it is, I ended up developing lupus. So that thing activated lupus for me, which is again is another systemic disease which asks you to pot. In addition to that, I found I got hemochromatosis. So I got a full bag of stuff going on. However, hemochromatosis, despite what some people might think, carnivore diet, hemochromatosis can be right. To be honest with you, I've got full diagnosis, that is a genetic disease anyway. I donate blood every 4 months and absolutely fine. Provided I can donate blood every 4 months, I'm absolutely fine. And there's no issue. I eat red meat every day. So I eat beef and lamb every single day. It does not impact, my hemochromatosis whatsoever. So I will get high iron levels regardless of whether I was eating red meat or not. It's everywhere. So it will make no difference for me. And it's absolutely fine having the carnivore diet. So we're now at the point where I went through menopause while I was carnivore. So I hit the menopause. I've been carnivore now for 8 years. I hit the menopause 6 years ago, and I didn't even know I was in menopause, apart from the obvious thing that period stopped. But I had no symptoms whatsoever. So I had no hot flashes, none of that awful stuff that everybody hears about. And they tried to put me on hormone replacement therapy because they say, well, you have to get your hormones up because it's not good for your bones and all that. I listened to them the first time. They put me on that and made me feel like crap. I started getting PMS symptoms. It was like being back on my periods. So I stopped doing that, and actually carnivore diet is left me in a position where I don't have any symptoms whatsoever. So actually, I've actually feel better now than I felt even when I wasn't menopausal, postmenopausal. And all my autoimmune disorders are under control. So provided I don't get away from the carnivore diet, because I know if I do try to have something like dairy, I get reaction from that. So provided I stick to the carnivore diet and leave the dairies out, I'm absolutely fine.
Yes, amazing. I find it quite inspiring myself. I mean, I don't have that many autoimmune disorders by any means. And I see someone like you progressing, staying very lean, building muscle, having an enjoyable life, using the carnivore diet. So it just goes to show, it is for everyone. There isn't really, but I'm this, therefore I can't do it. You're taking all the precautions needed. You're having the necessary blood tests and you're doing the best you can with the hand that you've been dealt. So that's really inspiring. Now, I want to talk a little bit about your current training.
Yeah.
So we're working together now for just over a year, I think. I wanted to ask about what your current training is like in terms of maybe your training split, days per week, time in the gym. Like what are you currently doing in the gym?
Right, I'm currently doing 2 upper body days and 2 lower body days. I am more of a morning person when it comes to training. I perform better in the morning. However, because of work commitments, I have to do 2 evenings and then 2 mornings. So I do 2 sets. Upper body, I do 2 sets per exercise when I do the upper body. But I use the super slow method. So I literally, while before I used to just count reps, I now just do each exercise, each set to last about 1.5 to 2 minutes. I don't bother counting the reps. I literally go to I keep them moving very, very slow, lift slow, hold at the top, and then lower down slowly until I get to the point where I reach concentric failure. So I can't lift up all the way. And then I do a couple of more reps with, just the half, partial reps. And then once I'm really struggling to lift it up completely, then I will just hold the last one until I reach full isometric failure. And then I lower it down. So the idea is that although it's only 2 sets, it's time and attention I'm looking at. So every time I'm trying to progress, the weight remains the same until I can do at least 2 minutes of complete time and attention where I've exhausted everything. Once I can do 2 sets of each 1 or 2 minutes, then I increase the weight next time. And if I won't be able to do 2 minutes, I'll do less until I build it up until I can do 2 minutes. I progress that way. Leg-wise, the legs do a bit more. So I'm doing for the leg press and the leg extensions, I tend to do 3 sets of those. It's trickier to hit the 2 minutes with those because I can hit 2 minutes the first and second set. The third set is really hard because by then I'm quite knackered. You know, the legs are quite knackered. But I find the legs really hard. For me, they are where I tend to store most of the fat, and it's the one where I find it harder to build muscle. So I have to put a lot more attention on the legs. So I have to do more sets for the legs to try to build them up. I do try to do when, for example, I got the leg extension, I got the leg curls, you know, which I tend to do 2 sets of those ones, and I struggle a little bit, but I'm okay with those. Then when I go to the leg extensions, I need to do 3 sets of that. And what I tend to do, I say one of the leg days I do both legs together. On the other leg day, I'm doing single leg extensions, just to try to make sure I've got the same level of strength in both legs and it's symmetrical, if you like, because I do have a tendency, my right leg tends to take over. Being right-handed, I tend to be stronger on the side, so I want to make sure the left leg is the same level. So I tend to split them that way. So that's for that. And then I do a couple of, I do some core exercises just to strengthen the core. This is also very important. And for the upper body, I don't struggle much with the upper body. It's very weird. I find that I can do the upper body exercises fairly comfortably, apart from when it comes to some of the pulling exercises. I got some problems because of injury in the wrist. I had 2 operations, so I had to use straps. When the weight gets to a certain point, then my grip will go. So I have to use straps just to make sure I don't let my grip determine how much I can lift. You know, for the especially last pull down is one of the exercises where I have to use straps. Otherwise, my grip will go well before my lats are ready to let go. You know, so I have to compensate for that. Yeah, but otherwise I'm doing upper body, lower body, and then I have a couple of days break, upper body and lower body. So that's what I'm doing at the moment. And I'm in the gym for about 45 minutes up to an hour. It's an hour normally when the gym is very busy, you know, you got to walk around the machines, if you like. But otherwise, I try to stick to 45 minutes because normally I'm quite cooked by then. So I don't like to stay in the gym for 2 hours. There's no need for that.
Yeah, you brought some really good points there, especially about, you know, controlling the weight, working to isometric failure. And also as well, you apply more volume when perhaps you can't really truly meet isometric failure with, for example, the leg press, leg extension. You know, although people can do different intensifiers, some people just prefer to do, you know, just an extra set. They both work. You know, there's more than one way to skin a cat. And it obviously seems to be working for you because, you know, looking at your sheets, you know, your data, you know, because I understand you do body composition scans and things. Things tend to trend upwards when you're going for a goal. So this month I'm focused on muscle gain, you know, very slight progressions, but you're an advanced trainer. You've been training for probably decades now. So I'm not expecting massive 4 kilo jumps in body weight in a few weeks. So you're looking at those microaggressions. Yeah.
I would love that.
Yeah, same.
Takes
I think
a long time.
Yeah, I agree. It's funny really because we'll train different ways, but also we have to find a way that resonates with us that we enjoy. And Steph's a bit like myself. She likes to go ham in the gym and just go nuts. Just work really hard in the given time that you have, and make sure you're applying yourself. That's the key to any sort of training program, I think. Now, the next thing I want to talk about is a little bit about your macronutrient intake. So anyone that is probably watching this understands I don't track calories. I call it a lazy coach's way of applying a metric. I'd rather someone no protein, no fat, no carbs, and any combination of that, assuming the same calories, will have a different impact on body composition, as I've found, and I'm sure Steph has found in the past as well. So I want to ask about your current macronutrients and perhaps what you're doing right now and what you've done in the past, and what kind of leverages you have and what you move around in terms of your diet to get a certain physique or body composition outcome.
Yeah. Right. In the past, I come from a past where I was dieting all the time. Yo-yo diets is what would describe me before I was keto and then definitely carnivore. So it's I've always struggled with my weight. I've always been a larger person. I've always been in ladies size. I've always been a size 16 up until I got my son. So it's always been a struggle for me. I was always a chunky one in the family. So in the past, that has always been, before I hit the carnivore side of things, I always used to do, the first thing I used to go was low fat, low calorie, low fat, low everything, So I came from a background of a messed up metabolism. In addition to that, you had a thyroid problem. So it's really messed up metabolism. Because that's one of the things that carnivores made a massive difference for me, because it moved my mindset away from counting all these calories and being neurotic about food, the quantities. Because the one thing I noticed with carnivore is I could actually eat large amounts of meat, and my weight wasn't increasing. So it was the first time I actually let go of this having to. Well, I still measure everything, yeah, because I'm one of those people is how do you call them? OCD. Well, I'm beyond OCD. I've been tracking my food, my exercise, my reaction to everything on chronometer for the last 10 years, and before that on MyFitnessPal for 10 years. So every single day without fail. I'm a bit OCD with that kind of stuff, but that's because it has me control everything. It has me control anything from bowel movements to reaction to food, so I can see what's causing problems. I believe that if you don't track it, you can't fix it. I don't track to see how many calories I'm eating. I'm just tracking to see how my body's reacting to the food. So sometimes it might be, I'm looking at, okay, I'm having 10% beef versus 15% beef. What happens at the end of the month? Where am I composition wise? I'm not so much looking at the calories. Right now, I'm actually having probably the most amount of food I had in a while, because I'm literally eating to hunger, and my hunger's been going up as I've been training harder and harder. So it's been going up, which is nice not to feel guilty about eating, more. So at the moment, I'm having 2 meals a day, and I have breakfast and then I have lunch. So breakfast is quite early in the morning before I get to work. It's normally around about 6:30. And it will be is a mix of so I have a total of 600 grams of meat a day, which is 300 grams of lamb, 300 grams of beef, and that is split into the 2 meals, morning and lunchtime. So it works out about 300 grams of meat in the morning, which is half lamb, half beef, and 300 grams of meat for lunch, half lamb, half beef. But in the morning, I also have mackerel. And that's after you gave me the advice, because I always used to have just beef on its own. I would have just maybe eggs for breakfast and then beef for lunch. And I used to feel hungry. My hunger was out of control. And you mentioned, why don't you try to mix different proteins? So I'm having the beef in the morning and the mackerel, which is tin mackerel, but it's in spring water. Obviously, don't mix it with the beef because it would be disgusting. I eat beef first and then mackerel separately because, I don't think it will go well. And then for lunch, I'll have the remaining 300 grams of beef and lamb mix with 3 hard-boiled eggs mixed together. And that normally works absolutely fine for me. And then I train in the evening during the week, and I train in the morning on the weekend. I do, however, find at weekends I have to have more meat because I tend to walk to the gym and walk back from the gym, so that my step count is high and I get hungry. So at the weekends, I tend to have, instead of 600 grams total meat, I have 900 grams meat split into 2 meals, and I will have 1 mackerel. I don't have eggs at the weekend. I'm trying to control the eggs intake because it's one of those food for me which is dose dependent. If I have too much of it, I start reacting, which normally skin reactions, rashes and stuff like that. So I find if I have the eggs 5 days a week and the other weekends, I just have a break from them. So far, it's working absolutely fine. So that's what I tend to do at the moment. So it works about 155 grams of fat, 155 grams of protein, I do have days, like for example, Mondays. Mondays is a day when my hunger is sky high, and that's because Saturday and Sunday is my days when I train the hardest. I also have the extra step going to the gym and coming back. And I find that Monday I'm more hungry, in which case I will have either extra mackerel, an extra tin of mackerel, or I'll have another couple of hard-boiled eggs just in the evening if I feel that I need to. I try not to eat too late because with me having such a slow digestion with celiac disease, I find if I eat too late, it messes up my sleep. So if I have that, I try to have it at about 6:30, no later than that, and then I can go to bed at 10:30 and absolutely fine. So that's what I'm doing at the moment. I don't add any fat to the meat because lamb, it's got enough fat in it. I just cook it in a pan, add a bit of water so it doesn't stick to the pan, and then I just prepare my meals. Every evening I prepare my 2 meals, the breakfast and the lunch, put it in glass containers, and then I take one to work with me, and one in the morning when I get up. And I eat and I drink coffee. Yeah, I do have coffee. I'm Italian. You will not take coffee away from me. No chance.
I remember that at the start. Yeah, you said I'm Italian. I have to have my coffee.
No, I was raised with espressos. There's no way you're going to take that away from me. It's decaf. I have decaf, so I've improved on that.
Yeah, that's true. I think you brought up some really good points, especially about, measuring things, tracking things. Now, people probably watching this, listening to this, will probably think, well, no, we just eat to satiety. The problem is the human body isn't exactly perfect, and it can sometimes lie to us a little bit. If my sleep, for example, last night, my sleep was off, I'm really hungry today, like really, really hungry. I had about 4 hours sleep. I also decided to train today because I'm absolutely stupid and masochistic. What have you. I still enjoyed my session. But the point is, your appetite will not always be the same. So although Steph here is, tracking things, what she's doing, she's also alleviating some of that extra stress by trying to force herself in the same bracket of macronutrients every day. So she's not having, every single day protein 155, fat every day 155. No. Sometimes it's a bit more, and it should ideally match your appetite. And that's where people tend to run into issues. So what I recommend to a lot of clients is give yourself, depending on your size, activity levels, that 5-10 gram either way sort of bracket. Perhaps for Steph might be a bit larger than that because she is significantly more active on the weekend. So it does make sense to me, and that's the approach we should all be following. Ultimately, people get probably 90% of the way there, just reaching satiety with animal foods alone. But Steph's trying to achieve something which is very difficult to achieve, and that's building a really good cracking physique to go on stage as a female carnivore bodybuilder. We haven't really seen it this much in this kind of space. At least I don't think I've seen a carnivore bodybuilder as in doing it purely carnivore. So I think she might actually be the first, which is pretty cool. But the purpose of this kind of talk, and we will go into more detail in a second, but is to go through the details of what carnivore bodybuilders do off season. So she's outlined what she's currently doing, transitioning into the contest preparation sort of phase. So Steph, with that point in mind, when is your competition that you're planning to do this year?
Is 22nd of September. So it's a while to go. However, I know that because of the thyroid situation I've got and the postmenopausal situation, so I know the way my body works, and as I mentioned, I put on weight very quickly, and it takes me forever to take it off. So I need to allow myself enough time to do it gradually, because there's no point in going on ridiculous amount of restriction, and then all I'm going to get is going to create a massive hunger, and then I'm going to end up binging, going completely out of control. So that's why I decided to wait until September, so it will give me enough time to do the change that we need to do gradually. And I know with me the fat intake makes a big difference. When people say, oh, you should satiety, listen, I did not have a satiety level at all, because I did try to do the program with priming and fasting. Well, I did priming for 10 days and I put on 5 kg, and I still never had satiety. I had to stop myself because I thought it's ridiculous, I'm eating way too much food. I did not have that feeling at all, and it took me a while to get back to that. I don't know why, what was it that wasn't working for me, why I could never feel satisfied. I suspected that it was because I was having way too much protein, not enough fat. Because again, when I started carnivore, it was I was still on the mindset of low fat, you know. So, and I find that if you have too high protein and not enough fat, you still feel hungry. You know, after a while you feel hungry. So I had to try to let myself go and have a bit more fat. But at the same time, with the situation with my thyroid and being my postmenopausal, that fat level, you've got to be so careful, because if you go too high, the weight you put on is literally, I can put on weight very quickly, and then it will take me a month to take it off. So it's got to be very gradual. But I know when the time comes, it will be slow reduction with the fat, and then walking. Walking for me is a massive fat loss exercise. I find that if I do too much cardio, I'm absolutely ravenous, and then it becomes counterproductive. I end up eating more. So by walking, because it's relaxing, I listen to podcasts, I go for a gentle walk and I listen to podcasts. I find it very relaxing. But that when I did that when we were all locked in, it made a huge difference. I stripped off the fat. I wasn't even trying to strip off the fat. So definitely is fat, you know, reducing the fat gradually and then increasing the step count, I think might work better.
Yeah, it makes perfect sense. And what she's talking about here, you know, in case you didn't sort of catch on properly, she's talking about walking. She's not talking about running on a treadmill. Talking about going for a walk outside, weather permitting. Something where her heart rate's slightly elevated, but just enough so she's got some physical activity without impacting her training, impacting her joints and recovery, and so on. The point she made about the appetite, you know, if you pound away on the treadmill, you know, lots of concentric loading, incline perhaps, that's going to damage your muscle fibers. And you'll see that when you have a blood test and you measure your creatinine kinase amount. So I had my levels when I competed 2021, and they were, I believe, 3006. And for anyone that knows anything about creatinine kinase, it's not meant to be 3006. I was doing a lot of activity and that's what caused it. So my appetite was really high, and that's why my food intake was also very high. So in hindsight, I've learned from that experience. And Steph also intuitively, without even sort of listening from me, has obviously worked that out for herself as well, which is really interesting. So it doesn't always support, you know, the resistance training only sort of thing. There is some wiggle room for other stuff as well. But like she said, 4 sessions per week, upper lower sort of split, you know, staggering her nutrition slightly, biohacks. So she's outside, just getting a bit of sunlight, fresh air. A lot of people don't get that. A lot of people do not get that. So she's making a conscious effort to get that. And that's especially considering, you know, she's worked predominantly in an office-based job inside, probably lots of blue light, lots of toxic environmental stuff, which she can't obviously manage herself. So it's great to hear. Now, the next thing I wanted to talk about a little bit was what your initial plans were in terms of competing. So I understand now you've got a lady posing coach sort of thing. So you're checking in with her sometimes. We're going to meet in the near future as well to talk about that and how that's getting on. But what is your kind of approach to it right now? What are you thinking? This month I'm going to do this. The next month I'm going to do this.
Well, at the moment, right now, I'm trying to build as much muscle as I can. So I'm still enjoying eating the food as and when I'm hungry. But the plan, I think, is possibly, well, I'm going to Italy in over Easter to meet my family. And then once I come back from that, I think I would like to start cutting back a little bit. So starting the cutback, that will give me, so from April, so May, June, July, August, so it's about 5 months. So 5 months of gentle cutting, so to get down to what I need to be. I've actually taken my measurement today with the Tanita scale. I've got 2 scales in the bathroom. One is the Tanita, which got a segmental, so it's got both the hands held things and the feet, which is the most accurate one I use for my clients as well. And then I've got the Withing scale, which starts, you just stand on it. Now, the Withing scale starts me at 16% fat, body fat. No chance in hell. I mean, I wish I was. I'm not. Tanita started me on 23%, which is actually more realistic. So I need to go down. I think you mentioned it's going to be probably 13% to be on the bikini one. So I need to drop 10% body fat basically. So I think is 5 months. It's going to be over 5 months. So 20 weeks. That should be, should be okay. So I like to see start the manipulations and see the plan is to start in April, and that should be enough, to drop that down. Because I said by then the days will be lighter, so the nights will be lighter, so I can actually go for walks in the evening. Now it's not safe to walk at night here. It's not lit. So and that will help, the extra steps and dropping the fat gradually. That should get me to a nice position. When the contest is, then I'm going to be in the right position. I want to get there in the best shape of my life. So I want to get there, and I would like to place, so I don't want to go there and then at the last. So if I do all this, I like to, start something coming out of that. So that's the idea. But it all depends on how the body responds. So obviously for this one, we'll take your guidance because you've got more experience in these kind of things, whether 5 months, contest prep, starting the cut is enough, or whether you think we're going to need longer for that. I mean, you're the expert on that one, but that was generally the guidelines for what I was planning to do.
Yeah, for sure. So my approach, thinking about it logically, is to get you from assuming there was an accurate way to measure it, going by trends sort of thing. I say go from about 23 to about 18% body fat over the span of maybe 2 to 3 months. So a bit of a cut, but not a heavy kind of cut. Then from there, we'd reassess, how much food do we have to drop? How much activity do we have to increase to get to that point? Then from there, I'd be able to assess, okay, maybe we need to add in this kind of strategy, add in this tool, reduce this, increase this. But it's an as needed, as per requirement, case by case basis. There's no guideline for any of us. We're making educated guesses, I'd say. We're almost winging it. But we don't know because, dealing with several autoimmune diseases, the intolerances that you do have to different foods, we can't manipulate things too much too fast. So I want to get you to a sort of cruising spot where you're about below 20% body fat, feeling relatively good. Then whenever the time hits, we can say, okay, now we need to sort of buckle down a bit, and we might introduce some particularly lower fat sort of days, things like that. But I'm hoping, knowing you about your fat loss past, what we can manipulate with the levers that we can pull, it shouldn't be too abrasive on you. And that's always my intention with every kind of client. It's a health focused first kind of approach, and also getting the physique right. And I think we're going to make it. And I think it's going to be absolutely incredible to see someone, I say of your age, a little bit older than me, do a really good job on a bodybuilding stage.
My son is older than you.
Yeah, that is true, but I think it's going to be
a lot.
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah, but I think it's going to be good to see what someone can achieve. I think it's going to be very, not just for me, there'll be women out there perhaps watching this. I know I've got a few channel members that are female, probably about your sort of age themselves, and they're thinking, well, I can't do this. Well, Steph can. I can, know.
You know what is, as I said, is before I found about Carnivore, even on keto, I was getting better, but I was still struggling a lot with my weight as well. Ever since finding Carnivore, it's just made a massive, not just for the autoimmune disorders, but for my body composition. I'm now when you look at muscle mass versus fat mass, I'm up in the best shape I've ever been in all my life. Even when I was in my teens, I wasn't like this. Strength wise as well. If you do what works for your body, the body will reward you. There's no way around it. And when people say, when you're post-menopausal, you hit the menopause, that's it, that's the end of it, then you got no chance in hell of doing anything. That's rubbish. Yes, you do start accumulating fat in areas that you didn't before. I mean, I noticed that as well, so it does happen. But, it doesn't mean just because your body's changing that, you can't achieve anything anymore. That's absolutely rubbish. Women have gone through the menopause for hundreds of years, and they never needed any HRT before. So, it's this as a natural progression of the life cycle for a woman. It's the normal thing to happen, and there's no reason why there should be something that stops you to do what you want to achieve. Whether you're postmenopause, whether you got autoimmune disorders, I've got 4 autoimmune disorders and hemochromatosis. I mean, the end of the day is you can't be defined by what you have. I mean, yes, we know that genetically we all may have some predisposition for something, but at the end of the day, is the gene load the gun, but it's the environment that pulls the trigger, as we know. So we can't control our genes, but we control the environment, and we can control our lifestyle. And you control that, and then you got to the control of what your future is going to be. That's the way I look at it, anyway.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, I'm going to leave this conversation now. I'm sure people that are listening to this are as well, motivated as hell. You've got 5 months now to get ready. So what we're going to look at doing on my channel is just doing something maybe every few weeks or so, a bit like this, just as a step-by-step phase, what we're doing at what point, and just have any sort of updates, and we'll have a little discussion at some point about anything relevant in the nutrition space as it stands right now. I just want to say thank you very much for coming on. I appreciate your time a lot. I appreciate it is Sunday, and you're looking probably to get outside soon and relax and do some stuff. So.
No, thank you for having me.
Cheers. Take care. Build muscle and lose fat on the carnivore diet.